Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's good to see all of you. Welcome to Project Contracts and Procurements. ICT 4105, Week 5 Roadmap. We'll walk through it together. This is Professor Bauer and ready for an exciting week of developing procurement in some specific ways. So a lot of good things. All right, our agenda is to look at week 4, an overview for procurement management, which is the focus of week 5, and then you've got a special assignment, and we'll take a deeper dive there just to make sure that you understand it. A reminder about our Zoom room session this coming Wednesday for those of you who may need it. Last week, good discussions. One thing I want to remind a few of you, this is the online discussions are a class participation. Some of you have done really well answering the questions, but you have not commented on your colleagues' comments and answers. So that's 2/3 of the assignment. So make sure that part of your participation is to read your comments, read the comments of your colleagues, and make pithy, helpful, and if you disagree, respectful comments on your colleagues. It's a good way to show that you're paying attention. And by the way, don't just throw them in there on Sunday night. Hey, dude, that was great. I really like that, man. Something that's a little bit more insightful. Your keen wisdom and intellect on display as you evaluate the contributions of your peers. So keep in mind, this week is the 5th week. Can you believe we're halfway done? Time flies when we're having fun. Sometimes time doesn't fly when we're not. But anyway, we're halfway done. Time to focus if you haven't got it in gear. But, for the most part, I'm pretty pleased with the way things are working so far. So more like keep up the good work. Week 5 is supplier selection criteria. How do we pick the people who are going to do work for us? I had a real bad hailstorm in my house a few weeks ago. And after working with my insurance company, now I have to pick some roofers to replace my 8-year-old roof. And I tell you what, so supplier selection criteria is very much on my heart these days. I need to pick a good roofer, quality, gonna work to the contract, someone who will identify any problems they may discover when they take all the shingles off the roof, and end up with a great roof when I'm done at the cost that my insurance company has agreed to pay. So we'll talk about selection criteria. So what is the business need here? We'll look at some readings and some instructional materials on this subject. You've got 2 discussions on how to analyze a stakeholder, and then how to select those stakeholders, and then finally a supplier selection criteria assignment. And last year people got confused on this. I want to make sure that we walk through the process so that you get all the concomitant parts for this assignment, and you're able to get full credit for it. So we'll do that in just a moment. You have a procurement plan template, okay? And in the assignment instructions, it's a Word doc, and rather than hunt for it in the book, good old Professor Bauer found the Word doc, and I will send it to you in the email in your announcements for the week. So you'll be good to go. So you don't need to look at that managers and forms thing and then scan it and turn it into a Word doc. So who loves you, baby? You will be ready to go there. Now, you're going to create a framework. A couple of things that you need to do. Create a framework for supplier selection criteria. Then it says include at least 5 criteria and weight all 5. In other words, one may be 10%, another may be 50%, maybe price, maybe more on quality, etc. Make sure it adds up to 100. And to reflect their varying importance and influence in your decision-making process. There's no right answer here, but you should reflect on what's the most important, and then the next, and et cetera, et cetera. Then you summarize all that cogitation and evaluation in an executive summary. So this is what a lot of people did. They saw executive summary and they immediately started writing and said, okay, I'm going to do this, and did this and did this and did this. Instead of following the step-by-step approach that is listed on the last bullet point. Break this down into steps. What's my framework? Okay, you're going to read about several different frameworks. Get a framework and use it. If you find that you have a diagram for the framework, what a cool thing to include in your executive summary. Because executives don't read. And that's why they never make the corner office at the C-level. So show them a picture and explain it, okay? That's a good executive summary. What are my criteria and their respective weights? That's part 2. I have the framework, then I add the criteria, at least 5. Don't have 15 or 20, which means you're not really that focused. What are unless you're building an electric car and you got about 1,600 different parts suppliers. But seriously, keep it simple, but also clear, and then use that in your executive summary. If you have a framework with the criteria and their weights in one pithy image, man, you're rolling there. Okay, that would be really important. How do I summarize this? So it's more than just plot summary. I did this, then I did this, then I did this, and I came up with this. Have a nice day. Say, look, in making these widgets, or in delivering this marketing plan, or in whatever it is you're working on, I looked at the most important deliverables and selected my criteria using this particular framework. The weights and the importance are reflected in the diagram below. I thought that, the quality and readability of this marketing plan was the most important. That it wasn't going to be just length, but I also wanted the breadth and comprehensive. I wanted the market sizing, I wanted the survey, and so all those requisite elements. I needed qualitative and quantitative information from my survey. I needed statistical significance. Without going into all that detail, I wanted reliable, qualitative, and quantitative data. It's just one way of summarizing. So you have to do all this work, but you also have to put it into an executive level summary that doesn't give all the details. But if your boss called you in and said, Bauer, I need to see you about this thing that you just sent me. And you know what I do? I pick up my documents that have all that framework information and everything like that, all my homework behind the summary, and I walk into the office, and then I can explain it to he or she in a better way than just, the executive summary summarizes what I'm supposed to say to you, the executive. Well, how'd you get this? Where'd you come up with these? What kind of framework are you talking about? So make sure you've got that backstop behind your work, and your executive summary will write itself. Remember, Shakespeare said, brevity is the soul of wit. So don't write 5 pages for me, okay? This is a 50-point assignment, and as always, the rubric is your friend. Don't forget the Zoom room. We'll take a look at frameworks. We'll take a look at the assignment. this coming Wednesday night, 6 to 7 Mountain Time. And that being said, have a great week. As we close with pithy thoughts for project managers, leaders, and such, I want to talk about the power of example. The world is filled with a lot of talk, and what's not talk is PowerPoint, and what's not PowerPoint is video. They work on our eyes, but the greatest example in leadership is not just hearing, but actually seeing real leadership. And it comes in project management, it comes in leading as an executive. And so I close with a simple poem by Edgar Guest called Sermons We See. Now, it's not a sermon, but it is a lesson. And maybe you've heard it before, maybe not. I'd rather see a sermon than hear one any day. I'd rather one should walk with me than merely tell the way. The eye is a better pupil, more willing than the ear. Fine counsel is confusing. Here's your executive summary. But example is always clear. The best of all the preachers, and I would say executives as well, are the men and women who live their creeds. For to see good put in action is what everybody needs. It's not just talk. There's a lot of virtue signaling in light of protests and demands for social change. I prefer the executives who, without a lot of fanfare, start acting before they start talking. I soon can learn to do it if you let me see it done. That's what Zoom Room is all about. I can watch your hands in action. Your tongue too fast may run. No problem there. And the lecture you deliver may be very wise and true, but I might misunderstand you and the high advice. But I'd rather get my lessons by observing what you do. I might misunderstand you and the high advice you give, but there's no misunderstanding how you act and how you live. Certain things you can't fake, and in leadership, and your example, what you say by your life, is something that you can't explain away if it's not there, and you don't have to explain it if it's there. So with those words, have a very good week, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye now.